Winter. Too cold to go outside, too dark to see anything by 4 p.m. And honestly too cozy on the couch and binge watching Netflix in your warm cocoon to even consider doing anything productive. Let's be real, who in their right mind wants to risk frostbite just to sketch some trees that aren't even wearing their leaves anymore? Fear not, my fellow blanket burrito enthusiasts. Let me share my totally professional solution for a line and wash painting that requires zero outdoor exposure and just enough effort to call it art.
Today's video was sponsored by Begouni Funeral Services. No, they never came back.
You're staring at a blank page, feeling like your muse packed up and left for sunnier, more creative destinations. Welcome to the artist's dilemma. What am I supposed to do with this stupid paper? Spoiler alert, it's not going to sketch itself. But lucky for you, and me, the internet exists. A magical place where inspiration is just a scroll away and procrastination is practically an Olympic sport. Instagram is a treasure trove of art challenges. Take Inktober for example, a fun little exercise that's just one shade shy of a creative boot camp. Luckily there are challenges for us low-effort creatives too. I stumbled across the Virtual Sketchers group, which posts a photo every Saturday for anyone to sketch. No judgment, no pressure, no deadlines, my kind of vibe. For this tutorial, I went with one of their prompts, a dramatic lighthouse on a cliff in northern Spain. Because apparently, nothing says drama like a building teetering on the edge of doom. Alright, let us begin to put some sketching on the blank paper. To start is the hardest step anyway. Let's be honest. Sketching isn't my favourite part. It's the broccoli of art. Necessary, but not exactly thrilling. Still, I soldiered on, starting with the lighthouse and its overly dramatic cliff. You know, the kind of cliff that looks like it's one gust of wind away from making the news. Using a fountain pen with waterproof ink, I could have used a regular ball pen, but nothing says serious artist like lines made with a high-class vintage Pelican fountain pen from the 60s with a quiet, flexible gold nib. I went for continuous lines because they give my work that artsy, not lazy vibe. If your sketch starts looking like a chaotic mess, just call it expressive. And don't sketch the ocean horizon line in the background, unless you want it stealing the spotlight. Trust me, this is cliff time. Okay, now we're talking. The sketch is done, and I can finally move on to watercolors, the part where I pretend to be a master painter for 15 minutes. I don't bother with the whole wet the paper for wet on wet thing when painting the sky. Why? Because I'm aiming for drama, not a soft focus rom-com. I want hard edges and bold vibes, leaving enough space for clouds that look like they've got unresolved issues. That's the vibe I'm aiming for. To achieve this, I grab my trusty Indanthrone blue and slap it across the paper in bold, sweeping strokes, diagonally, because clouds are apparently too cool for horizontal. Then I fade in a touch of turquoise, just enough to say, hey, I'm artsy, but not so much that it screams tropical postcard. Near the horizon, I keep it pale for that oh-so-natural effect. I then move forward with raw sienna and quinacridone gold for the foliage, because obviously, I want it to look like the sun is gently caressing the leaves. Reality check. It ended up looking like the sun was drunk and using a paintbrush for the first time. But hey, loose strokes are key here. Precision is for spreadsheets, not art. For the lighthouse, I used raw sienna and sepia. Why? Because they're the universal colours of I'm old and weathered. And let's talk about those white patches. Yes, they're for contrast. They're also my way of saying, oops, I missed a spot, and turning it into a design choice. The cliff's got a touch of viridian for moss and sepia for those jagged edges. Remember, cliffs are rugged, not runway models. The ocean's role here is simple. Show up, look mysterious, but don't overshadow the cliffs. I used indanthrone blue, mixed with sepia for that deep and brooding vibe. Near the foreground, I added some turquoise for a pop of hopefulness and reflecting some sky colours. Not sure if it worked, but hey, points for effort. Shadows are the eyeliner of the painting world. Apply them right, and everything looks sharp. Overdo it, and you've got a goth teenager phase you weren't planning on revisiting. I started with a soft blue wash to ease into the drama. The darker shadows with harder edges will come later. The lighthouse got some soft shading, and its roof was painted in cadmium red, adding a pop of colour because let's face it, everything else was looking a bit too moody poet. When all is set up, bring in the deep shadows with a mix of indanthrone blue and cadmium red. Use bold strokes. You can soften them later by washing out some parts for more structure. Watercolor blooms, the uninvited guests of the painting party. These cauliflower spots are like the art version of a bad haircut. You fix them as best you can and hope no one notices. When the paint decides it's in charge, all you can do is blend, layer and whisper, please behave. A little blending here, a little layering there, suggesting some wave lines, and voila. Crisis averted. The brighter areas of the composition often need a little extra warmth, like they're huddling for a cozy campfire, to balance the light and shadow. That's where I bring in warm tones like raw sienna and quinacridone yellow, my artistic sunshine in a tube, to brighten things up. For stronger contrasts, I dive straight into the shadows, especially in the cliffs and water, because shadows are basically nature's way of saying, don't forget the suspense. For the grand finale, I added cracks to the cliffs to make them look like they've endured centuries of abuse from the ocean. Finally, I added some splashes for movement. Those little dots of movement that say, look, I'm dynamic. The goal is to suggest life, not that your brush had an uncontrollable sneeze. To wrap things up, I went in with my Buddha pen. A fountain pen, which is as huge and dramatic as it sounds. It's like sketching with a small log. But hey, the results are worth it. Bold outlines, check. Subtlety, who needs it? Once done, I stepped back, squinted at my work, and gave myself a mental high five for creating something that's, well, something. Is this art, or did I just make a colourful mess? If in doubt, call it abstract and pour yourself a drink. And there you have it. Congratulations, you've just survived a winter sketching session without losing a single finger to frostbite. That'll make you look like a pro without ever leaving your cozy cave. Now, go forth and create something, or just scroll YouTube for inspiration until you forget what you were supposed to do. Both are valid choices. Alright? That's it for today. I hope you had fun and got some inspiration for what to sketch and point next. I'll skip the typical YouTube babble about subscribing, hitting the bell button and so on. It's annoying. You're grown up. Do whatever you want. See you next time.